Hello, everyone. Can everyone hear me?
I can hear you.
Hi. Good morning. It's almost afternoon, but good morning. We don't have a lot of people on here yet, so I guess we might just want to give them some minutes to join in, so that we have more people on the call when we start. But yeah, you're welcome. It's exciting to be chatting with you guys again. It's been a while. Um, yeah, so let's just give them, I think, about 5-10 minutes, and we kick off right after that. So this is 11:59, maybe 12:09. Let's kick off 12:09. Okay, it's 12:09. Let's get started. Welcome once again, everyone. It's been it's been quite a ride. I'm pretty sure it's it's not been easy. It might have been challenging for a lot of you, right? But kudos for making it this far, right? Proud of each and every one of you. What we're going to be doing today is just going to be a recap, more like a discussion of everything that we've done so far. So from the days of intro to design to intro to Figma to laws of UX, psychology of color, typography in UX, we're just going to be talking through, those topics. And basically how that's going to work is that if you have any questions or anything that has been bothering you or anything pertaining to what you've learned so far that you would like to talk about, please feel free to indicate that you have a question, and then I'll call you and then we would address that. All right. So depending on how much questions we get, this session might not be very, very long. All right. But yeah, the floor is yours. So if there's anyone that has any questions on, and by the way, it has to be on topic. We can't go out of scope, right? Regarding what we've learned, the assignments you've gotten, any questions, any confusions you might have been experiencing, um, feel free to indicate, and then we're just gonna get started with that. Okay, I can see one hand up. Wow, this is going to be very, very short if we only have one person. Okay. Um, yeah, I guess we can start with Kendi. She was the first to raise her hand. Kendi, if you could please unmute and let's hear your question so we can address
Okay.
it.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. It
Hi,
has
hi,
to
good
do with
afternoon.
color. Color. Please, I'm having issue with color. So is there a particular
Okay.
site that can guide me through that? Then another thing, assuming I want to design for a company, and they, normally most companies usually have their colors and the like. Does that mean that
Mm-hmm.
I will need to apply those colors to the 60-30 things? I don't understand. You understand when you want to design?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I want to know. Then is it possible that maybe when a particular company has a color and the color does not match, can a designer guide them? I don't know. Can I maybe persuade them to change the
Suggest.
colors? Yes, to suggest the color and the like.
Okay,
So
okay.
that's all.
All right, thank you very much for your question. You can, mute yourself now. So, first things first, yes, there are resources out there that teaches you how to choose colors to apply in your project. I think it was TechFlow that took the topic on psychology of color, right? So if you were in that class, it probably would have mentioned that different colors evoke different emotions. All right. So whenever you have a project that you want to do and you're trying to choose color, don't find you're going to get to a point in your career where you can, off the top of your head, you can decide what color you want to use for a particular project based on the experience that you've had. But for now, where you're still trying to figure things out, try to understand, I would suggest that you revert to the learnings that you've gotten to help you make the decision, right? So of course, during the course of the lessons, I'm pretty sure he has mentioned that, oh, there are particular colors that evoke strength, that evoke confidence, colors like black. When brands use black, they're trying to tell you that, look, we're the best. That's why you have the likes of Nike telling people that just do it and this is us, right? And then we have blue, which of course evokes things like trust, right? And of course, when you think about brands that needs people's trust the most, the brands that comes to mind are brands that handle people's money. Okay, if you don't trust the bank, your money is not going to be there, which is why a lot of fintechs out there, they use blue. You would have noticed that the likes of PiggyVest and all sorts, right? And of course, we have colors that evoke what's the word, tastiness, right? That gets people excited, right? And when you think about some brands that might want people to get excited when thinking about them, you're thinking about restaurants, food brands. That's why we have the likes of McDonald's using, you know, a shade of red and yellow. Some restaurant brands also use orange because, I mean, those colors are associated with food, right? So I can say those things off the top of my head now because I had learned them and now they are kind of a part of me, right? So for now, if you want to make any color decisions for your designs, it's best to have that document open or that site open or that file open where these descriptions have been made, right? I'm pretty sure the slide that TechFlow shared should have that, but if you don't have access to that, I can forward links to articles that have the breakdown of these, you know, emotions, right? I can forward them to, I mean, in the Slack channel so everybody can see, right? So if you want to make decisions like that, you can as well just click open those links and read through what they've written under each of these color types, and then you can choose from there. But don't at least for now, don't try to come up with colors on the go. Don't just try to say, oh, I like blue, I should use blue for this. No, at least for now, you should read through those documentations and be like, okay, the first question is, what am I trying to build? What am I trying to design? What does the client want to achieve? Oh, they're trying to come up with a brand that showcases them as the best in the business. They want to come off as proud and confident as an authority in this niche, right? So then the next question will now be, okay, in this documentation, which of these colors has been written to portray confidence, to portray authority, right? So it's when you read through that you now see that, oh, they mentioned colors like black as colors that people use to show that, look, in this field, I'm the best in the business. Right? So that helps your decision-making process when it comes to color easier, right? That's for the first one. For the second one, yes, a lot of brands already have their color system created. You know, they have their colors, they have their they have their color palette, they have their typography, they have their logo, they have everything that they need. So when they are bringing you in, you need to understand that these brands are not going to explain the 60-30-10 rule to you. They're not going to tell you that, look, this should be 60, this should be 30, this should be 10. You need to be the one to now look at the colors that they've given you, right? And split them. Do you understand? Like, work them into the 60-30-10 rule. So for instance, if Zuri, for instance, right, is, I mean, we're using a shade of red, right? It's a little bit similar, a little bit closer to, it's like pinkish red, let's call it that, and then a shade of brown, right? And then a shade of gray. It's creamy, like grayish cream, something like that, right? So we have those colors. Whenever we want to design, right? Or if maybe whenever I want to design, or maybe want to get someone else to work on something, we are going to give them these colors. Like, okay, these are Zoe's brand colors. Design these, right? And then the person will now be the one to be like, okay, so from these things that I'm saying, this red seems to be more prominent, right? And from everything that they've done so far, you know, I'm always seeing a sprinkle of red in particular places. But then they would notice that we don't necessarily use the red as hues, as background hues. Like if you go through the Zuri site right now, you will notice that, yes, our red is prominent. We used it a lot for our CTAs and everything and some background patterns. But when it comes to background of some particular sections, we are using more of the brown, right? We're using more of the brown for background. And then when it comes to the actual pitch color, we're using the, you know, creamish gray. So anybody that sees that would now, any designer that sees that and analyzes the site would understand that, yes, the red looks like it's the brightest, but it's the ones that we're using the least, right? So the red actually has to come in 10%. Why? Because it's very, very eye-catching. So we decided to use it for CTAs instead. Which is why if you go through the Zuri page and you're scrolling through, you would notice that the majority of our CTAs are in red. That's the 10%. Right. And then we have, you know, a lot of sites when you go there, the main background the main page background is always white, and then they add other colors in different sections. But our page background is not white. It's the creamish gray that I was talking about, right? So it's obvious that we have that in a lot of places. That's our 60%. That creamish gray, it's our 60%. And then we have this brown that we just put in some sections to make them different from the other
Sorry,
sections.
Damilola, can't you share your screen to show us all those things you are saying so that it should now reinforce what you do and context it?
That makes sense. That makes sense. Let me just finish my line of thought and then I will share my screen. Right. I just want you to get an idea first. So it's not like when we create this brand guide, we tell people that look, this is how you should know. Right. You are the one that would have to use your intuition to break them down into, the 60-30-10 principle that we've been talking about. Right. And for your last question, yes, I've worked with brands before where the colors that they shared or their brand colors were terrible. They were not really portraying what the brand was all about. And of course, in cases like that, it's well in your right to tell them, look, I understand that these are your brand colors, but since we are rebranding or we're trying to redesign the website and everything, I would suggest that we change this for XYZ reasons. Nobody's just going to change their brand color if you don't give them reasons, right? Sometimes companies even allow designers to change their brand fonts if you give them valid reasons to do so, if you give them tangible reasons to do so. So yes, you can ask them. It's now left to them to either say, oh yes, I agree with you, let's change it, or oh hell no, we don't want to change anything, work with what we've given you. And in either case, you have to stick with their decision because at the end of the day, it's their choice. All right. Okay, so let me share my screen and show you what I was talking about really quickly so you can get a clear idea of what I was referring to. Give me a second to do that. Share. Let's do, um, okay. Yeah, this should be fine. Let's do. Hold on a second. That's fine. Let me know when you can see it. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, yes.
Okay, awesome. Now this is what I was talking about, right? We have three colors. Three colors are primarily used. We have this red, we have this brown, and we have this shade of cream. Like it's like a grayish cream that we use here. Right. So those are our three primary colors. Now, if you remember what TechFlu said when he was giving his lectures, companies have their specified colors, right? But in brand guides or style guides, right, you will notice that, or if you've seen examples of style guides or brand guides before, you notice that even though they are primary colors, right, there are also things called accent colors. Those are like tertiary colors or extra colors or additional colors that you can add to just spice things up a little bit, right? So in as much as we have this, and this as our colors, as our main brand colors, you would notice that we also brought in this shade of cream, this shade of orange, this light shade of pink, and this shade of purple. Right. So you would also notice that I'm going to show them to you, but in some other sections of the site, we use these colors, but we use them very, very sparingly because they are not, it's not about them. We just brought them in to spice things up a little bit. But yeah, before we proceed, you would notice that yes, the main section here, the hero section here, has a background color. This is not white. This is one of our colors, one of the Zoe brand colors, right? And of course, you would notice that we then used the brown, right, in some areas, right? And then we used the red to, what's it called? To grab attention. We're using the red as eye catchers, really, which is why if you look through here, you will see that we're using, the primary button here as the red. Driving impact for Africans through tech empowerment. Impact for Africans is what we want people to, be fixated on. That's what we're doing. We're driving impact, right? So we decided to highlight these in red. And of course, our primary buttons or our primary CTA still retain the red color because that's the primary action we want people to perform. Number one, I want people to understand that, okay, this is what we are doing. And this is, if you want to get started, click here. So you notice that, let me just skim through. You notice that all through this site, right, everywhere we want people to perform an action, or everywhere we want people to pay attention to, we have it in red, right? It's red, red, red. So of course, from this, it tells you that, look, in as much as the red seems like it's the sharpest,
they are not using it as much as I probably would have expected them to. They're only using it for CTAs and eye-grabbing elements. So that means that if I'm designing for Zuri tomorrow, right, I must also use the red color sparingly. So for only things like CTAs or text that I want to use to grab attentions, right, that's what that is for. Now you notice that for some sections, we use the brown as a background color, right? This is also to, number one, to make the sections different from each other. Because imagine a scenario where you're scrolling through a site and every single section has the same color. It's going to feel bland, right? There are lots of sites like that out there. Yes, I get that. But you will notice that the difference between sites that use different colors and sites that use one, the ones that use different colors are always more attention grabbing, right? And they give the users a sense of progress. Okay, I've passed through here. Oh, I'm seeing this is different. If I go through here, okay, I'm seeing something else that is different. It gives them a sense of progress that they're actually moving from one section to the other, right? Whereas others that have just one color, it just feels like you're scrolling and it's bland. There's no difference in section. It's too much space for you, right? So we've also, of course, we also have our brown. So we've used our brown in some cases to, of course, segment the sections and also make sections stand out. So, I talked about making things stand out using the red. If I wanted to also make sections stand out, one would have thought that, oh, maybe I would still use the red. But think about it this way. If you're using the red to call attention to CTAs and also using the red to call attention to sections, it's going to defeat the entire purpose of having the red in the first place, right? So instead of using the red to also call attention to sections, we've decided to revert to the brown instead, right? So this section is different. We're trying to tell you something very important. We're calling your attention to it. And then we've gone back to our primary white background, or primary light gray background. And then we have, this is an image background. The background has an image, but we also decided to use the brown as an overlay, right? Because that's what we are using to separate sections. Remember, that's what it's for, right? And then of course we have, and you notice that even though we're using this to separate section, even though this section stands out from this white background, you will notice that the CTA supersedes them all. That's way more obvious than the rest of them. And that's really the idea. That's what we're trying to do, right? And yeah, so this is what I'm talking about. I mentioned that brands also have accent colors, just one or two colors that you bring in to spice things up a little bit. Now, I could have decided that, oh, you know what, since our colors are brown, red, and this cream, right? Let's just splash those everywhere. But it's going to get to a point when people... Hello, is somebody saying something? Okay, so it's going to get to a point where people just get used to those colors and it's like, I've seen this before. This is the same as that. This is getting boring, right? So that's where your accent colors come in, right? So instead of using our normal colors, I decided to use our accent colors for 2 of these cards instead of the 3, right? And of course, underneath that, we also have our CTA because we don't want to forget why people are on display. We don't want to forget what we want them to do, right? And for this section, even though I'm not using the brown to segregate or separate the section, I'm using it to call attention to this image that we have there, which is trying to tell people that, look, we have quite a lot of trainers, we have quite a lot of professionals, we've done this, that. These are our stats, these are values that showcase or that, these are track records, let's put it that way, right? So it needed to also stand out, but bear in mind, I still cannot use the red, so the brown had to come in handy, right? And then we have some more sections, and more sections. Yes, but the bottom line is you can see clearly that red is obviously our 10% here. And then, yes, we definitely have the brown, which has way more use cases than the red. And then we have cream or light cream or grayish cream, which has way more use cases than the rest of them. So that's what we're trying to say. Whenever you get brand colors from people, they will definitely not tell you that, look, this is how you should. Some brands will. Mind you, if you're working for a well-established brand that have been hiring designers for years and have gotten to understand what good design really is all about, they will tell you that, look, this is the font that we're using for headings specifically. This one is for body specifically. You must always use this font weight, this font size, and everything like that. But some won't. So it's left to you to be like, okay, what are we going to do? What are we trying to do? How can we use proper colors to communicate the brand message in an effective way, right? So that's where you come in as a designer. So yeah, I hope this answers your question. And I'm pretty sure you guys have gone through this website already. If not, you should go through and just take a study of how we used colors around, basically. And of course, if you have any more questions regarding that, be sure to let me know. But yes, I hope that answers your questions, kind of.
Yes, thank you. Do I have
All right,
another question, but I'll wait for others to ask before I answer.
yes, yes, that makes sense. Lawa, you're next.
All right. Good afternoon, Damilola.
Hi, good afternoon.
Yeah. Please. Oh God, I forgot my question. Just sorry, one sec. Okay. Yeah. So in our previous session with Fola Jomi, that's the first introduction to Figma that we had. She said we shouldn't use rectangles and to create shapes or something like that. So I want to know, does that rule apply to this particular assignments, or can we just dabble in whatever we have, whatever resource we have to create a landing page?
Okay.
And also, yeah, so okay.
Go on. No, go on. Let me hear the second
Okay,
one.
right. And secondly, about the wireframe, I tried my best to just go on YouTube to watch videos on that to educate myself, but I didn't get it, and I'm not sure if I understand it well. So I don't know if you could just spare like some time to explain it. And lastly, one of the instructions says that we should ensure that the page is responsive. It has something to do with the responsiveness of the page. So are we designing separate screens for the landing page, or just one page that can be transformed or reduced, like a desktop screen that can be reduced to a mobile screen? Is that what we're doing? Or I mean, you could just help me, like, you just shed more light on that, please. Thank you. So those are my questions.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay. So to answer the first one, I probably would have to open Figma. Yeah, I guess this is this is going to be longer than anticipated. Just hold on a second. Let me share my screen. I guess this is going to help everybody. Share screen. Let's do Figma this time. Where's my Figma? Hold on. Okay. All right. Let me know when you can see my screen.
Yeah, I can see your screen.
Awesome. So first things first, the reason why Fola mentioned that you guys should stay away from rectangles is that when you get used to designing with rectangles, it becomes part of you, and then you forget to make you forget that it's not every time, like you forget that triangles are not scalable design components, right? That's really the idea. So think about it this way, right? Okay, sorry, let me just get my keyboard back online. All right, so this is I said triangle, so rectangle. This is a rectangle, right? And of course, how Figma works is that when you draw the shape, you can turn it into squares, whatever you want, right? So this is one, and this is a frame. By the way, the shortcut I used for this was F on my keyboard. So if you press F and you click and drag, you can create frames. Or if you press R, just the R key on your keyboard and click and drag, you can create rectangles. So we have a rectangle, right? Let's name them. We have a rectangle, and of course, this is already named frame, but let's just call it this either. And we have a frame. Now, number one, people find it easier to use rectangles because sometimes when you use frames, it stresses you out. And let me explain what that means. Imagine that I bring in, let me grab a random image from my gallery. Okay. Imagine that we have this image file, right? I'm designing, and then there's a section where I need to put an image and a background, blah, blah, blah. This is a PNG image, by the way. So if you bring it on a rectangle, for instance, you will notice that, oh, yes, I mean, I can already see that the image is on the background, right? And then what now happens is that in order for you to make it fit in the rectangle, you either have to, reduce the size of the image. That's option one. or 2, crop it so it sits perfectly. Right. And if there's any point where you're not understanding what I'm saying, let me know. So those are the, of course, the obvious 2 options I can use to ensure that this fits. And another thing is that when you want to resize images with triangles, let's say, oh, I like it. I like the way everything is now. I want everything resized together. Designers will now have to resort to grouping them. Do you get? And then resizing like this. So of course, the fact that they've grouped and they're able to resize make them feel like, oh, okay, this is the best approach. It's easier and stuff like that. But then we have a frame where if you bring in, let me not crop this. This is a frame, right? If I bring in an element into my frame, I can simply just drag it and then it clips. You see how easy that is. Now, bear in mind that if I want to increase the size of this element, I don't have to crop the image at all, right? I only have to increase, like I only have to like make it bigger and then it stays. And see, everything fits inside the frame. So that's one thing that frames does. Frames add constraint, that it ensures that every single thing it's holding stays inside. I don't know if you've gone through any scenario where maybe you're designing something, right? And then maybe we have multiple sections, right? And this happens a lot when you're designing. Maybe we have multiple sections and then they look like this, but then you design them using frames and you didn't know, and then you probably want to maybe move them and you do this, right? It happens, and this can be very, very frustrating when you're working on a group file, because if you're working in a team, nobody wants to be frustrated. I cannot be working in it with a team of designers and then they tell me that, oh, there are components already, and then I'm trying to work with the components and I notice that, oh, this is a standalone item, this is a standalone item. They are bringing things together with groups, and actual frames are not being used, right? It makes the process slightly longer, right? That's one. 2, frames are really what is responsive, not rectangles. Rectangles are not responsive. So let me show you another instance where we have a rectangle, right? This is a rectangle. And then I bring in a text. Let's say I type my name is Lawal, right? This is a text. Say I made it big, right? Of course, in order for everything to stay together, because I'm using a rectangle, I obviously have to group it. I don't have a choice. It has to be grouped. So now it's grouped and everything is together. But look at what happens when I want to, maybe I want to reduce the width of the entire thing, right? And then I click and drag, right? I get this. Do you get? I get this, right? But in a situation where I'm using a frame, let me bring in a frame, right? And then I type in, maybe I type in my name is Lawal, right? And then I make it, because it's in a frame, I can now make it, auto layout, right? And I make this, hold on, I make this field a container. It doesn't matter how wide I drag, this is going to stay responsive. Now, notice the difference here, right? It looks like it's responsive, but look at the padding on the bottom. It's not even, right? All I did was drag. So it literally stayed where it was and it's not adapting to my needs. But with a frame, you would notice that if you look here, you will notice that there's a left and right padding of 11 and a top and bottom padding of 12, which means the space between the top and my text is 11, and the space between the bottom and my text, the space between the top and my text is 10, space between the bottom and text is 10, and then for the left and right, I have 11. So these dimensions are going to stay fixed no matter what I do, no matter how long, right? No matter how long the text is, it's going to stay fixed. Do you understand? And that's what makes sense, because now I don't have to come into every single file and start or every single component and start adjusting things. I don't have to do that at all. Once I've made it, I put it in a frame, made it auto layout, and it has a dimension, all I need to do is continue my work. Do you get? And the same thing happens with images, right? If you put an image right in a frame and you adjust the image to take the width and height of that frame, everything just adapts, right? It makes life easier for a lot of people. Do you get? right? You can see that even though the text is not, like, even though the text wants to be cutting off, I can still see my paddings. Like, I can see everything, right? So that's part of the reason. There are a whole other bunch of reasons why, like, using a frame is more advisable, but these are just part of them. It helps your what's it called? It helps your files, your design file, be more organized, more structured, right? Because look, these are my layers panel, right? Look at what happens when I group, right? Look at what happens when I group. I have this guy, then I have the frame, and I have the rectangle, and then I have the name of the group. That's too many things. But with a frame, I have just the name of the frame and the image inside. Do you get? So you also have to think about the fact that when you're designing for large corporations, you are going to have, at some point, you're going to have to be naming your layers. So imagine that you're working on a project with a couple of 100 pages, maybe 100, because trust me, 100 sounds like a lot, but it's not. You have pages that are way more, especially mobile apps and the rest. So imagine that you're designing projects like that, and then instead of you to have a name for your frames, you're now having to have 3 names instead of 1, which means a name for the background, a name for the image, and a name for the group. That's like maybe 300 times 3. That's how much naming that you would have to do. It's exhausting and ridiculous, right? So definitely, right? Definitely, there are times when you would have to use rectangles. There are times, right? But what Fola is trying to help you understand is that you should not get carried away. Rectangles are important, obviously, but don't get carried away with using rectangles. In fact, instead of you getting used to using rectangles, learn to use frames instead. You get? Learn to use frames instead. So if you're working on let me bring in a mobile app screen very quickly. So even if you're working on a mobile app, right, and you probably want to add, let's say you already have some, right? Let's say you already have some sections in the app, right? And then inside each section, you want to bring in an icon or something. It's best if you bring it in a frame, right? It's best if you bring it in a frame. So when you create the frame, and let's say this is the icon, and then you drag, excuse me, when you bring it in a frame and then you drag the icon into it, right? Hold on. It's easier for you to manage. This is not a group, this is a frame. And because it's easier for you to manage, it's also easier for you to change, right? So she's not saying rectangles, if you use rectangle in some of your design decisions, it's the end of the world. That's not the point. But the point is that people easily get carried away with using rectangles, and then they forget that rectangles are not scalable. Do you get? But when you use frames are scalable, they're easier to adjust. And let me give you one more use case before we exit, right? You would notice that in most website projects that you see, you will notice that we have images on one side of the section and then text on the other. So let's say this is one of them. Remember that this is this is a rectangle, right? Let me give you the instance on both scenarios. So this is a rectangle, right? And this is the frame. So if I bring in an image, let me duplicate this, probably make them the same size. So if I bring in an image, right, I can just drag and drop that into my frame, right? And you see what happens? This gave space for this. Like it gave space for it. It just shifted to one side and then this stays. But if I do the same thing for the rectangle, like I click into the group and then I paste, look at what happens. It just pastes. Number one, you notice that the image is still cropping off. So I would have to go through the stress of clicking into it, reducing it and reducing it and bringing this one to this side and trying to adjust. Can you even imagine? Even the text is not fitting. Like it's still showing me that the text is supposed to be 610 pixels long, right? So I would have to come in here and reduce this. It's too hectic. Nobody should have to go through this. It's too much. But look at what the frame did, for instance, right? So even if I decide to reduce, do you get, or increase the size of the frame, everything stays in place. Are you seeing some of the benefits of working with frames? Everything stays in place. And you might be wondering, oh, this guy's head is cutting off. I don't like the way this guy's head is cutting off. It's actually quite easy to fix that. So what you have to do, what you would have to do is now click on the frame, right? And that's why you have your frame settings over here. You would notice that the width is fixed, right? It's fixed because I've been dragging it since 1648. So that's why it's fixed. Any width I give it is what it stays on. And you'd also notice that the height is fixed. If I want everything to fit into the frame, all I need to do is change from a fixed height to org content. So basically what org content does is that it ensures that it wraps everything inside the frame and nothing exceeds. So even if I increase this, right, and then I bring this back, you can see that this is not, what's it called? This is not cutting off anymore. And then you would also notice that you can do the same thing for images, right? You can either decide to give them fixed width and height in a frame, or you can decide to make them responsive. So make it fill the container, make it fill the container. Do you get? Now, this doesn't always work because sometimes the image now gets distorted. But what happens is that no matter how much I now increase or decrease, I get the fact that it's stretching, but do you get the idea? See, it ensures that everything stays inside the frame, right? So basically, these are just some of the benefits of working with frames. Frames help your work be more organized. It helps you extract when you're naming files. It helps you when you're trying to add some more elements into your design component, right? It was very, very easy for me to bring in this image. Even if I want to add maybe a button and I want to make the button color blue, right? All I need to do is click and drag and then just change the direction, right? So boom. By the way, you might be wondering why I just did that. Don't worry, that's not hard at all. I can show you, right? But look, everything stays. Everything stays, no matter how crazy my text get, everything stays. So yes, I'm going to agree with Fola and say that as much as you can, use frames instead of proper rectangles. It's going to make your life easier. It's going to make your life easier. It's definitely going to make your life easier. There's one thing that I do sometimes that you might also want to explore, right? If you're working on a project and then, so this is one thing that frames do that probably annoys people, right? If you are working on a project, right, you can't just click on a frame and resize it like this. The image is not going to move with it. Do you get? And that's one thing that pisses people off because, when we had the rectangle, for instance, I could just click and drag and then, hold on. And then everything. Why is this happening? Okay. Okay, I could just click and drag, and you can see that the image is moving with it, even though things are not structured. But with frames, you can't do that. That's one of the things that pisses people off. But it's fine, really. So one thing that you can do, right, if you're a little bit more comfortable working with rectangles, you can design a section in a rectangle, right? So for instance, let's say, let's start from scratch, right? I want to design a section with this guy on the left, right? And then some text and CTA on the right. Maybe this is what I want to do, and that's fine. And by the way, this is also being responsive because it's in a frame 4 currently. I want to do, right? But I'm not sure yet. So I don't want to put it in a frame because I don't want to be having to go through things like this, right? So I can as well just maybe decide to bring in a rectangle here as a test. I'm not going to leave it permanently like this, right? Just to see if this makes sense, right? And then once I'm done with this, of course, I would have to group them together. Once I'm done, I can, and I'm not going to use a shortcut for this so that you guys can learn it. I can right click. Do you get? So the first thing that you do, if you want to turn, you can turn a rectangle into a frame. So how you do that is that once you're done with that rectangle and it's grouped together, you can right click and then scroll down to where it says frame selection. Do you get? You can convert or you can turn a rectangle. You can frame a rectangle. Let's put it that way. So if I click on frame selection, it turns this entire group that I've created into a frame. So what I can now do is go inside the frame, right, and ungroup everything, because I've been able to ascertain that this is what I want. Ungroup everything and remove that extra background that was there, and just give the frame a background instead. So right now this is a frame, right? And then I have my text inside and an image inside. So of course, from here, I can decide to add, auto layout. And by the way, you find auto layout here. Auto layout is what makes this responsiveness possible, right? Not just the frame. You create a frame, but then you make it auto layout, right? So I can just click on my frame, enable auto layout, and, and make it not fixed, because if it's fixed, it's not going to be responsive. So now I have this. This is a frame, right? But of course, you can see that this process was slightly longer than just using a frame in the first place. So as much as you can, right? As much as you can, use a frame. Use a frame. And if you want to create sections for your project, you want to create sections for your projects, you want to create a frame to, for different sections of your project, just click on your F key, right? When you click on that, you're going to see the list of all possible frames that you can choose from. I don't want to do iPhone, so I'm just going to close this. Come down to desktop, open desktop, and I don't know, let's say I want to use 1440 by 1024, and then I click it, right? So it has created a frame for me that I can start my design on. All right. And then if I also want one for, let's say I've done the desktop view, right? Let's just put something here, right? And then something here, and maybe have it this way, right? So let's say I've done my desktop view and I also want to do my my tablet view. It's the same process. I'll click on my F, then come down to tablet, go up to tablet rather, and look for the tablet size that I want. Let's say iPad Pro, and boom. So it brings in a tablet view. Then I will now, of course, recreate what I've done. Recreate what I've done here, right? And you obviously understand that tablet design has to be responsive. So that means that if this is like this on desktop, right? Oh, yes. And so this is another thing that makes auto layout very interesting. So if I make these, bring this together, make them auto layout, and then this is now one file. And then if I make this and this also auto layout, right? And then I want to use this on my desktop view. So what I can now do would be to change the direction of these. So I'll just come here to my auto layout settings. Remember, the first thing I did was grouped these two together, not group. I made them, a single auto layout file. I did these two initially, and then I did these two, right? So because I did them separately, I can now come here and change the direction of my auto layout from horizontal to vertical. Do you see what happened? So it was horizontal, now it's vertical. That's one sweet thing about auto layout, right? And I can do the same thing with this guy here too. I can click into here, and instead of making it vertical, I can make it horizontal, right? Vertical, horizontal, vertical, horizontal. But don't worry, these are all things that you would get a hang of as long as you keep playing with things and keep practicing. But it's most times you get to understand or you get to figure things out when you've worked on when you've been opportunity to work on different projects that have different requirements. Do you get? If you are, imagine that I was working on a project that does not require me to use grid, that every single section was just rectangular, right? Imagine that this was the kind of project I was doing. It means that when I'm on my desktop view, right, there will be no need for me to use auto layout to change the direction. And then I will just have something like this also on my tablet. Do you get? Like, of course, this is desktop. This definitely is how tablet is going to look. But because I just, brought in, or I just sketched a concept that has grid, I was not able to, use the auto layout function. So what I'm going to say is that take it step by step, right? Take it step by step and practice as much as you can. Practice as much as you can. I think up until recently, there was a feature in Figma that I didn't even know about. Like, not recently, maybe a couple of months ago. But I've been designing Figma for years, but I didn't know about that feature until a couple of months ago. And then I learned it, and then I was telling somebody else about it, and she was like, "Oh wow, we can actually do this." And possibly a lot of or millions of other designers out there already have been using that feature since day one. All right. So if there's any feature that you don't know how to use yet, don't get worried. Don't start bothering, or don't start thinking that, oh, it's going to take your time, it's going to be hard to figure out. Don't ever think that. You're going to figure it out eventually. Do you get? You're going to figure it out eventually. But yes, back to what we were saying. Frames are definitely an asset. Or they're definitely assets. Let's call it that. They make your life easier. So yeah, I hope that answers that. And then you also mentioned something about wireframes. So I wouldn't want you guys to maybe overthink things and start getting scared. All right. Okay. I wouldn't want you guys to start overthinking things and start getting scared. When we ask you to create a wireframe of the work that you're about to do, we are basically saying that you should start by creating a structure. Do you get? So if for instance, let's bring in a desktop. Yeah, I know some people still have a lot of questions. Let's bring in a desktop view again. If for instance, I'm trying to design a landing page for, I don't know, maybe a pet care store or whatever, right? The whole essence of the wireframe, and wireframes are not always perfect. That's what you need to understand. They are not. They're like building blocks. Do you get? They are not always perfect. So if I'm going to build or design a website, a landing page for something, right? What a wireframe does, or what a wireframe helps you with, is thinking about how you want to approach it. Oh, okay. So for this website, I definitely want to showcase their logo and some links, right? In the nav menu, right? So of course, I'm just going to draw something here, right? Maybe and use this to signify my logo, right? And because I know that I'm going to have some links here, I'm also going to use this rectangular shape to maybe just signify that there are going to be a couple of, I don't know, perhaps a couple of links here. Do you get? Right. So now I have my wireframe is coming together, obviously. I know that when I'm done, when I'm ready to do the high fidelity design, I will definitely put a logo here and I'll put some nav links here. Now the question is, after my nav menu, what do I want people to see here? Do I just want text? Because there are some brands that have that, they just have text here. Or do I want an image and then I want some text? So once you've decided, you cannot be like, okay, you know what, let's just put an image on the left, or maybe let's put the image on the right, and then have some heading text. You obviously, I mean, you would agree with me that it makes sense that we make this heading wireframe bigger, because heading text are definitely larger than paragraph text, right? And maybe after this heading text, I want to have like 3 lines describing what the heading is saying. So of course, the body should not be, excuse me, the body should not be as, thick as the heading. And of course, after this, I probably want to have 2 CTAs, right? So I can just have, maybe CTA 1, right, and CTA2. Do you understand? So when I see this, this can pass for my wireframe, right? Because I know that by the time I'm bringing my designs together, I'm going to put an image here. I'm going to put some links here, my nav links here. I'm going to put headings, and my headings are going to be 2 lines, right? If I had done something like this, right? If I had done something like this and made it 2 instead, it would have been that, oh, my heading is going to be 1 line. Do you get? But because I put 2, right, it now makes more sense for me to be like, okay, I'm going to have the heading, and the heading is going to cut into 2 lines. The paragraphs are not going to be more than, the paragraph is not going to be more than 3 lines of text. And then we're going to have 2 buttons. So this is my hero section. My hero section's wireframe is done, right? And then I can decide that, oh, the next section that comes after that should probably be a section where I introduce partners. So maybe to do that, I want to add a heading that probably says, no, I don't want to use a text. I want to add a heading that probably says, meet our partners. And underneath that, I want to have a list of all my partners' logos, right? This can pass for my hero section and my partner logo section easily. Do you get? So basically, this is what wireframing does. I know you find, as you advance in your career, right, you're going to learn slicker ways, more aesthetically pleasing ways to do wireframes and everything. But right now that you're just starting, we're not expecting you to go, go be doing all those sophisticated wireframing yet. We just want you to start with a structure, so that by the time you're building, right, it's going to be easier. You already have, so for instance, okay, this is a wireframe, right? Look at another interesting thing about wireframe. The fact that I've done this, it makes it easier for me to design my i5, because all I would just have to do would be to duplicate, right? And then bring in an image file here. Let's even do that. Like I go to my plugins, I open on Splash, right? And I can just bring in, let's search for, we said pet care, right? Let's search for animal. And then let's bring in, oh, nobody keeps a fox as a pet. So let's do, I think people keep snakes, but I don't want to do snakes. So let's just do maybe this, nobody keeps raccoons either. Let's do the rabbit. All right. And close this. Can you see? Like I didn't have to start creating a section and start bringing an image. No, because I already had a framework. I could already just change the image. And the same thing here, I can import a logo here, right? And I can easily just, for this section, I can easily just bring in a text element, right? And just paste some text and ensure that they are specifically 3 lines. Do you get? And then give it a line distance of, most times I use 120%, sometimes I use 140%. But I mean, you can use your eye gauge to figure out a spacing that works for you. Boom. So now I can decide to remove these guys because I don't need them anymore, right? And based on my wireframe, I already have my text here, I have my image here, and I can keep doing the same thing for the rest of the sections that I've created a wireframe for. So the wireframe is not intended to stress you in any way. It's just to help you, build a structure that will make your high fidelity process a lot easier. Do we understand?
Oh,
yeah. I want to
yeah, I
make that
do.
we do.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you're welcome. So please, don't start. If you go to dribble
Sorry, I'm very sorry. On what you just said now, from the assignment, from the instruction given, it's as if they want us to make high fidelity design because we have to use US
you
design,
will.
we have to use all those rules and the like. But
So
from what
here's
you
the
just
thing.
said, okay, I'm listening.
Yeah, sorry about that. So here's the thing. I was just explaining wireframe. Wireframing is one of the things that you have to do. Do you understand? So Laura had asked a question about wireframe. So I was explaining how the wireframes can be. So this is the wireframe that we just sketched up right now. So I was saying that when you're done with your wireframe, you can just duplicate that wireframe and use that for your high fidelity design. You're definitely going to do high fidelity. High fidelity is when you bring in actual content, which is why I brought in an image here, and then I'm changing this one to an actual text. Do you understand? Right. So, and those things that we mentioned, I think maybe the way we crafted the assignment was a bit scary, but everything all we said in that assignment was that ensure that you use everything that we've taught you. So those UX principles, lots of UX typography and the rest that we talked about, we are basically saying that we want to see you guys every single thing that we've taught you in this particular assignment, right? So you will notice that even though I was trying to create a wireframe here, you will notice that I was conscious enough to make the heading obviously bigger because there has to be hierarchy, right? I was conscious enough to think about, oh, where do I want my logo to be? Where do I want the nav links to be? How many buttons do I want to use, right? How do I want to place the button? What do I want to come after? These are things that we've taught or we've talked about when we're talking about, laws on UX, all this hierarchy, consistency and stuff like that. So basically what we're trying to say is that you should use every single one of those teachings. So it's not like we don't want to come and see a design that somebody will submit and let me just duplicate that. We don't want to see you come do a design and then you are telling us that hold on a second. You're telling us that this is your body and this is your heading. Like this would just be an automatic fail because we taught you that headings are definitely supposed to be larger than bodies. Do you get? Right. So it's things like that we're talking about. We don't want you to come and tell us that, oh, you are working on a website, but the heading and paragraph are now going to be here, like no padding. And then this is probably also going to be here. Like even though there are sites that have images that are angled to one side, when it comes to your text, there should definitely be padding. You can't have text like this, right? So that's what we're saying, that in as much as we understand that we're all beginners, we're not expecting you to do something out of this world, right? But we want to see that every single thing that we've talked about in the past before now are being utilized. So obviously from first glance, if you look at this one here and this one here, even though I didn't even use, spacing, I didn't calculate my spaces and everything like that, this looks, it definitely looks better than this. And why? The major difference here is the fact that we used a different heading size here, and then we added enough padding around. Do you get? So those are the things that we're talking about. It's not meant to be a scary assignment. Come up with an idea. You can be a photography studio. It can be for your business. If you have a business that you're running on the side, and just think about it. Okay, I want to design a site for this particular business. Let me now start putting together a wireframe. Oh, okay. So what do I want to talk about? How do I want to do it? In fact, you would also agree with me that there are a lot of projects, right, that don't follow website. I don't follow this approach at all. That their own is that they have how those sites are. There are sites that are like this, and then they have their text and the rest, right? Let me change the color so we see it easy, right? There are sites like this, right, where they have a wide background. Let me space it properly. Where they have a background section, right? And then they have their heading and their paragraph and their text inside this section. And then they probably have an image here. Do you get this? Is another concept. This is what wireframing does. Wireframing makes it easier for you to explore different options, and you can decide to take it a bit further and be like, you know what, I don't want to go this approach. I want to go with an approach that probably has everything outside the image, and then the image is alone, right? And this is how easy
Hi,
it can
Dami.
be
Hi, hello.
around.
Hello. Hello. Hello.
Can you hear me?
Hello. Hi, Dami. Hi. Hello.
I can hear you.
Sorry, please
I
can
can
I
hear you.
ask
Go on.
questions, please?
Okay,
Hello?
yeah, I wanted to, yeah, just hold on a second. Let me just finish with this line of thoughts. Did you hear that? Okay, so yeah, you can see that just by playing with wireframes, we've come up with different structures that are potentially going to work for whatever it is that we're trying to do. So that's what wireframing does, right? So it's when you're done with this that you can now start being like, okay, so based on this wireframe, now that it's time for my iFi, right? I want to change this to an actual heading with 2 lines. I want to change this to an actual image, high quality image. I want to change this to actual partner logos and the likes of that. All right. So yes, that's basically that. The assignment is pretty straightforward. So somebody was talking. I was not looking at my screen, so I
Yes,
didn't
sir,
know.
it's me. Hello?
Yeah, go
Hello,
on.
can you hear me? Yes, hi. Sorry, if you just have a few questions, just like a question and answer thing. I don't really need like descriptions. Sorry, first question. It's everything's regarding the assignments. Like, the assignment still meant to write a short paragraph of why we chose the particular products. So like,
Yeah,
but we're submitting just one link. So are we writing the paragraph within the Figma file, or are we writing it within the submission text box?
within Figma, yes. Just create a frame.
Within-
Yeah, create a frame and put the paragraph inside. That's all.
But on the same page where it has all the designs and everything, right?
Yes, yes. Imagine that these are your designs, right? So you can just create a frame here. Sorry,
Just
hold on a
beside
second.
it or something. Like
Yes,
beside.
yeah, create a frame. Yeah, create a frame here and bring in
Wait.
the
Okay, wait.
text.
Second question. Sir, I want to make just one wireframe for the desktop because obviously it's a landing page. So I want to make just one wireframe for the desktop because it's meant to be responsive. So we're obviously making tablets and mobile. So are we making wireframes for the tablet and mobile as well, or we're just like okay, we're sticking with the one wireframe for the landing page and then we just do the hi-fi for the tablet and the mobile, or you want the wireframes for the tablet and the mobile as well?
You can, for the sake of time, right? You can, if it's easy for you, you can do wireframes for all, right?
But it's not
the
necessary.
primary,
Yes.
the primary request is that you do the wireframe for the desktop.
For the desktop. Cool, great. Another question.
Yeah, you
sorry,
said 2.
sorry, last 5 actually. Sorry. The second assignment says that we're making a mobile app. Yes, it's a dedicated mobile app, right?
Go on.
Yes. Right. Yes. So, and it says that it has to be responsive. So, are we making a web app as well for desktop and tablet? Because why are we going to make responsive screens or pages if it's a dedicated mobile app?
Mobile apps have to be responsive because there are different screen sizes. Do you understand? So it's like this. You know what? For everyone on this call, just focus on making one. Don't think about other screen sizes for mobile. Just if you're sticking with an iPhone 12 Pro Max, iPhone 14 Pro Max screen, stick with that. Right. But keep it at the back of your mind that the reason why mobile apps also have to be responsive is that there are different phones with different screen resolutions, right? So if you're designing a product and then it only looks good on, let's say, the width of an iPhone 12 and doesn't look like good on the width of a Samsung Galaxy Ultra,
Okay.
then that defeats the purpose. Do you understand?
Okay, it just has to be responsive on different mobile devices, not
On
like
different mobile devices, yes. Not,
Sure.
yeah.
Okay. No, you said there has to be 5 main core screens or pages, right? So does that mean, okay, apart from the sign in or sign up side, can we just show one user flow if it has like more than 5 core screens? Or do you want us to make more than one user flow if the first user flow doesn't have up to that? Or is one user flow just fine for the section on the 5 main core screens? Do you get what I'm saying? Do you
Yeah,
understand what
so obviously, yes. So obviously, the part where we talked about the onboarding not being part of the core flow, I
Yeah,
guess
obviously.
that's pretty understandable,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Yes. So
Yeah.
when we talk about core flows, we want to see if you're saying that you're building an app that solves ABC problem, right?
Yes.
We want to see particular screens of that app where that problem is actually being solved. That's what we mean. So if you have, and it's understandable that some apps will have different flows, right? If you're designing a banking app, for instance, there might be a flow for transfer money, and there might
Yeah,
be a
exactly.
flow
Yes.
or add a new beneficiary, stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
So we want, if you're saying that, oh, it's a banking app, we know that if you're saying it's a banking app, and you give us a description that this banking app is meant to do A, B, C, X, Y, Z, we want to see core pages in that design where A, B, C, X, Y, Z are actually being done. Do you understand?
Not particularly. Sorry. But I'm just gonna say, okay, let's say
So
of that one flow, like, okay, I want to, what's it called, send money to someone. Like, if I do the process of sending money or whatever, that whole flow of that one flow from beginning to end, that's fine. As long as it has 5 or more core screens, right? That's what I'm
yes,
asking. If that one
definitely.
flow has that, then
Just
one
keep
flow
it at the back of your mind that core screens actually has to be screens that are showing the problems being solved. So if one flow has everything, then that's fine.
okay, but it
You
could be more than
understand?
one flow. It could be more than one
It
flow.
could be. Yeah, it could be. It's really depending on the product or the service or the problem that you're choosing to solve.
Okay,
But
great.
we need to have at least 5 core screens where these problems are being solved.
And are we doing wireframes for every obviously for all the screens that we're making? We're going to do a wireframe for every single screen, right? For that mobile app. Yes, right?
You have 2 weeks for that, so I would say yes. Yes, let's see the wireframes. Let's see
Wireframe
the
and the
wireframes.
the wireframe and the hi-fi both for everything.
And
Yes.
Wi-Fi for the mobile app screens. Yes, definitely.
Okay, last question. You said at the end of the second assignment that we're supposed to test it with users. So are we doing usability testing?
Yeah, you have to do those before. You have to do your research and get like a tangible response from people.
People are going, we are a beginner here. We don't understand what you guys are saying.
Just something. I just want to clarify.
Hold on a second. Hold on a
Sorry.
second. So it's like this. Hold on a second. So it's like this. Before you work on any product or before you design anything that people are going to use, and I'm talking to everybody, including the beginners here, you have to have conversations with potential users. If you can't go out, if you're not opportunity to go out to talk to people, or you don't have a word with the people you can talk to people around you, right? Siblings, friends, whatever. Hi, hey, what's up? I'm trying to do this. Like, what problem are you facing in this particular aspect? Are you facing a problem here? What are the problems that you're facing? Like, what do you think a potential solution will be? Like, ask them those questions so that at least when you're designing, you're not just designing with what you have in mind, what you're thinking the solution to that problem is, because those are the kind of things that we're looking out for. Do you understand?
Sorry, because sorry, that means we're doing research before we start the problem. I just thought we were do what we're about to do and then do the user testing. Because now you're saying we have to do
no, you don't just start a design process without a research. You don't.
Okay, so we have to
It
do
doesn't work
interviews
that
and
way.
everything as well. We have to do interviews.
Yeah. Yes, you have to. Yes, that's the plan.
But we're not
You just
documenting
talk to
that
people.
on the file, right? Are we documenting
No,
that?
we don't. No. We don't need to see
Don't do that.
we don't need to see the summary of the
Documentation.
interview.
Okay,
Just do that so you
just
can make a
high five?
more informed decision. Do you understand?
Oh, okay. Okay, then what about the usability testing? You don't need to see the documentation for that as well. It's just to make changes if there's a need for any of them, right?
Definitely. That's why we gave 2 weeks for this project, as opposed to the 1 week for the landing page.
Okay, but then that means
We
the
hold
final,
on.
right?
Hold
Yeah.
on. We need to take questions from the other people too, so we don't just run out of time.
No, this is my last question. This is my final question. I just want to find like, so okay, so when we get the what's it called, feedback from people, the final design is what is after we've done usability testing with them. That's what the final design is, right?
Yes, the
Right?
iterations that you make. Yes, the iterations that you make are what the final designs will be.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's all I need to know. Thank you. Great.
All right, you're welcome. Let's take Adedokun Ayomide next. Sure, your hands are still up. Adedokun, are you there? Okay, I don't think he has a question anymore. So, guys, here's the thing, right? Here's the thing. Like I said before, we understand that there are a lot of beginners, right? So we're not expecting you to do something that is out of this world. Sorry, hold on, who's this? Give me a
Okay,
second. Let
can you
me.
hear me?
Yeah, hold on a second. I was calling you, but you're not available. Just hold on a second. Let me finish my line of thought. Okay, so we understand that we're a lot of beginners out here, right? So we're not expecting you to do things that are out of this world. We just want you to be able to use everything that you've been taught, like actually use them in a process. Okay, use them in the process. So yes, we're not expecting you to travel out and start talking to 50 million people. No, it could just be the people that you have around you, maybe friends or colleagues. In fact, you can share questions around each other, right? I'm pretty sure we should have made a number of friends as at now at this point in the training. So you can, if you have your own idea, you can ask them questions. Okay, are you facing this problem? And then they give you an answer. And then they have their own idea, they ask you questions and give them answer. But basically, what we understand is that you're going to come up with a more tangible product, or you're going to have your thought process or design process is going to be more tangible and realistic when you are doing that with informed decisions. Do you understand? So talk to them like alpha. It doesn't have to take you days. One day is enough. Talk to people, gather their feedback, right? And then based on that, you can now start drawing a structure. So if they are saying, oh, they don't like the fact that they're having to spend 2 or 3 hours before they access the button that allows them to do this, that, then fine. You know that when you're designing, it means that the button needs to be accessible. They need to be able to, they don't have to scroll before they see that particular button based on what they've said. Do you get? Right. So yeah, just be diligent with these. Of course, you might think that if you don't do your research, you won't know. But then, I mean, don't try to find out if you would know or not. But just try to do this and then in your wireframes also, you need to explore. You can see when we're working through these things, I duplicate a lot. That's the thing. In one project farm, I duplicate like 50 times, sometimes more. But I make iterations. Even if I just want to change the position of the logo, I'm not just going to change it here. I will duplicate and change the position of the logo and iterate as much as I can. So it's not until I get a structure that I know works, right, that I now decide to move forward with. Do you understand? So I iterate a lot, move things around, and ensure that you please don't try to wing it the way we're winging it here. We're winging it here because this was a test. Your spacing has to be equal, right? Your spacing has to be equal. It can't just be random, right? We're using random spacing here because we're not really designing. I was just showing you an example. But your spacing has to be equal, proper padding, proper hierarchy, high quality images. Those things we've talked about them, right? Proper fonts. You cannot decide to build a fintech platform and then you're using fonts that are being used in horror movies. I mean, what are you trying to do? Scare people away? Doesn't make sense. So there are fonts that also complement your works. And that's why we've covered these topics before now. So maybe take some hours in a day to go through these materials, go through these training sessions again, and really pick out points that can help you in these assignments. But yeah, that's where we are. And yeah, I'm rooting for each and every one of you. So you can unmute yourself now and let's hear your question. What's his name?
Okay, can you hear me, sir?
Yes, I can. Yeah, it's you.
Okay. As regards the landing page, sir, I have a question though, because now what you just like the example you gave to us now, under the landing page, you are supposed to talk about the product, the services, and everything. So we are going to include even everything we have at the header in that landing page, right?
It's a landing page,
Or
so
we are going
yes.
to create like, okay,
You're not creating multiple pages. So um there's there's a difference between a website homepage and a landing page. So when people talk landing page, they are talking single page sites. So if I have an app right now that I want you to be able to download online, right, or through a website, I would build a landing page for that app. So you will notice that how you would even separate them is that you notice that on landing pages, their primary call to actions are telling you to do something. Sometimes it says download the Android app, download the iOS app, or download now. It's always something. Do you get? That's what landing pages are. They are built for one particular action. So if you are building a landing page for a product or service, every single call to action on that particular landing page has to say one thing, either buy now or try now, or you're telling them to do something. So which means that every single link that you put here are definitely going to be, they're going to have to be sections of the page. So if this page says about, if this one says FAQ, if this one says contact, it means that at some section on the page, there has to be a section that talks about the product. There has to be a section that covers FAQs. There has to be a section that covers contact details. Do you get? Because landing pages are one, and these pages are not, these links are not supposed to click to external pages, right? So they're supposed to lead you to different sections of the site. That's what landing pages does. So every single link, which is also where your research comes in, because before you decide on things that you put here, you have to decide on the information that the site is going to hold. So once you've decided what those informations are going to be, then you can now break them down and put those links here, and then design the different sections wherever wherever they're going to be. So yeah, I guess I hope that answers your question.
Yes, sir.
I
Yes,
did.
sir.
I did.
So, the second assignment that we say we should develop a mobile app. Do based on the design thinking, we have the test aspect. So, how are we going to do the testing? Are we going to send our project to someone to test it for us? Or I don't even know how we can do that. Or we convert the work to PDF. Or, I don't know. I don't understand that, please.
Okay. So there are different ways to do that, right? Of course, one of the ways would have been to prototype it, but we've definitely not done that yet. What you can just do is share your design with whoever it is that you did the test with, you did the research with. Do you understand? You can just share with them and try to gather their feedback. Do you get? You know that? Oh, okay. Let me not assume, but the essence of testing is for you to gather feedback and make iterations. That's the essence of research. That's the essence of testing, and to ensure that your product is actually ready for launch or ready for publicity, right? So you can as well just share. If I come to meet you first and tell you, oh, I want to design this that solve this problem, can you tell me what problem you're experiencing? And then you tell me the problem you're experiencing, and then I use that to make informed design decisions, and I actually design the app. It makes more sense for me to now come back and say, okay, look, I've built that app we were talking about. Try to solve that problem you're facing. Check this out. What do you think? Do you understand? So it's not like we can see you testing your products. No, it's just so that everything we're telling you to do here is in preparation for when you go out there, right? Because when you're testing with users, the stakeholders might not be there, right? They might not be there. The people that are actually paying you to do the work, they might not be there, but they are going to see the outcome of that test by the time the product is launched. Do you understand? Because if they launch it to your Play Store and people are complaining, they're giving your app 1 star, like they're telling you your app is bad, they would see that it's like this guy did not do his testing, and this is a problem. You can't continue like this, right? So it's not like we're going to see you when you're testing, but it helps that you try to do it and share these things with people that you know, your close-knit group, and get feedback from them. And then with those feedback, you can make iterations before you submit the final app for us to review and grade. Do you understand? Okay. So I guess there is one more person that has a question. And by the way, if you have a question in the chat that I've not attended to yet, just hold on to it. Let me take these final questions, and then we can read the ones in the chat.
Good morning.
Connie, it's your turn.
Oh, well done, sir.
Hi, your background is quite noisy.
All
right, go on.
Firstly, my question is the recording of this session, how long will it be available after this class, please?
How long?
Will it take to be available, please?
Oh, I guess it depends on how fast Zoom sends or Zoom delivers it to us. But once it is, I'm definitely going to follow up with Shay and we'll put it up as soon as possible. But it should definitely be up before the end of today, I think.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yes.
The second one is concerning the first assignment. Do we actually need to like send out forms to generate information before we start building those things we need to build, sir?
You can. It's also advisable that you should, right? So, like I said, you're going to get to a point in your career, right, where when you have a design project to work on, you can start iterating or start sketching things down without talking to people first, and then talk to them after, or you can do that simultaneously at some point in your career where you are sketching things down, but you're actually also asking people for the problem that they're facing. But for now, because I'm assuming that we're all still trying to figure things out and get the hang
Yes.
of things, you should talk to them
Okay.
first, and whatever it is that they tell you, make decisions based on those things.
Okay. The third one is when I group elements together, like if I have shapes and some other things and text, and I try to group them together, then I decide to resize using Control Alt Shift rather, Control Alt Shift. I realize that most of the elements just move different ways.
In a frame.
Yes.
So that's
Within a
what
frame.
so that's what we're saying. You can't, when it comes to, I think I'm still sharing my screen. Okay. So when it comes to adjusting element sizes and all in frames, right? You can't do it the exact same way you're working. You can't have it the exact same way you're working with rectangles. Do you get? So if you want to, do you know how to use the scale element to reduce sizes via scale?
Yes.
Yes, exactly. So you can explore that. Instead of trying to resize by just clicking and drag from the edge, right? You can just press K and then scale. You understand? You can press K and scale. But the whole idea of working with a responsive frame is that you can make all your elements completely responsive to that frame. All right. So if you have let's create one, right? And then I have an image there, and then I probably have a text here. Now this is not going to, I can't resize like this. It's not going to work. And even if I hold shift, right, I still can't resize. Do you get? So because it's a frame, right, what I can now do is change this to change this to auto layout. Do you understand? Changes to auto layout will ensure that there's paddings around everything. All right. But it's not going to guarantee that when I stretch, everything is going to be responsive yet.
Okay.
Do you understand? The only time everything inside an auto layout is going to be responsive is when I ensure that the width of all the elements in the auto layout are set to autofill. And how do I do that? I would click on this particular element first.
Yes.
So on this right panel, right, where I can set the width of my elements, open the drop down and write fill container. Do you get? So when it comes to the width is going to be responsive now. We can test it out. See? Can you see? That's for the width. And then you'll notice that even though I made one of the elements responsive, the other one is not answering me yet. Why? Because I've not made that particular element responsive. So I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'll come here, right? I would make this. And sometimes you can decide that, oh, I only want one element in the auto layout to be responsive. So there are times when people don't want images to be responsive because it will start stretching, right? So it's possible that you leave image as fixed and then you stretch the text instead. Yes, that happens, right? But if I want to make this also responsive, I'll do the exact same thing. Click on this group holding everything and make it fill container. Do you get? Now you will notice that everything is responsive. Just to be sure, I can click into every single one of the elements, right?
Yeah.
And just to see, okay, there's nothing obstructing it. So if I come here and then I start reducing, can you see?
Yeah.
Can you see? Exactly. And then if I want to scale, if I want to reduce the size of this, I cannot scale with the normal way. I have to use the K, like I have to use this, excuse me. I have to use the K, the scale functionality, and then just reduce everything. So the reason why this is not adjusting is because I set this I to fixed, remember?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So I can also set this one to fill, and then as I scale, everything goes. Do you get?
Oh, yes, sir.
Right. So
Please, where is the
yeah.
key that you're talking about? The key.
K. Just press K on your keyboard, right? And you will notice that when you, excuse me, and you notice that when you click on any element, the indicator that shows is different from what normally shows. That's the first thing that you will notice. The second thing is that you will notice that this scale settings box comes up. You can still see my screen, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so normally if it was not activated, let me close this. You would notice that if I click on any element, I see the normal settings, right? But if I activate the scale functionality, and I just press scale on my keyboard, it changes to the scale key. The scale settings rather, and then I can just from the edges, make it as big as I want or as small as I want, whatever it is that I want. Very good. Yeah. So, but
Finally,
I understand. Okay, go on.
no, go on, sir. Go on, sir. Go on, sir.
Please, my name is Dami. I'm not Sir. And I understand that, yeah, it might take some getting used to. Trust me, even for me, it did. I was one of those people that would always say, to hell with frame designers. I'm team rectangle all the way. But I got to understand that it's not about me. It's about the team. So if you have a team, I'm working with a team right now where I had to use components that they've created. When I got in initially, it was tough because I was pro rectangle, like trying to work with frames every time was so crazy. But I realized that if I wanted to keep working here, I had to learn. So instead of you to now be in that situation where you're having to struggle, it's better to just learn it now. Try as much as possible. Learn how to scale frames, how to adjust element sizes, how to make things responsive. And another thing is, of course, since this is auto layout, I said this before, that I can easily just change the direction of the auto layout. So I can click on this, and here you can see that it's currently set to right, which is horizontal layout. I can make it vertical if I want. And you will see that this image is not taking this text is not taking the full width of the frame. You might want to ask where the image went. Well, the image is not showing because the height of the frame is set to fixed. So if I change this to org, right, and then I come down to, where's the image? Sorry, there's something obstructing it. Okay. View. Okay, so okay, sorry about that. See, the height is currently 1. We've set it to 1 pixel. 1 pixel is still ridiculous. So I can, make it whatever it is that I want, right? And as the height of the frame increases, do you get? It just goes responsive. This boils back to what I said about images. Most times you will not be able to like really resize images. Your images have to be fixed. The only things that will be able to be resized would be the text, right? So yeah, frames are cool. I think that's it, simply put. Do you have any more questions?
Yeah, just the last one. The distance, I think that should be the padding. That is around the element you have within a frame. Now, I want to ask for the logo. Is it a must that it aligns with the body? It's usually above. Must it be on a straight line with the content you have that is for the body?
Yes.
I
So
think this particular
and
one
this
is
is
shifting.
no, that's the thing. I mentioned this when I started. Like I did not measure anything here. Every single thing we've done here, we've just been, spitballing the sizes. We did not use any dimensions or anything, right? But when you're designing, you have to set a margin for your page content.
Okay.
Do you get, like, you have to set a margin for your page content? And Falashi probably have shown you guys this, but how that is done for everyone on this call, right, is when you click on the frame, before you start adding any element, when you click on the frame, you would click on layout grid. This is layout grid right underneath auto layout. So when you click on layout grid, it would add a normal grid to your site, but that's not what we need. We don't want a normal grid. So what I would now do is click this icon, this grid icon here, to open the settings. And then here I can see a drop down that would allow me change from a normal grid to a column grid. So I would click that open and select columns instead.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you should have seen something like this in one or two designs in the past, right? If you've gone through people's files.
I use
this is how they
it.
get it. Exactly. So you would now have to set you'd have to set a margin, right? I use multiples of 8, the 8 grid system. That's advisable. So whenever you're designing for anything, right, always try to stick with the 8 grid system, right? So for your headings, your H1 headings, which is your hero section headings, can be 72 pixels, because that's divisible by 8, right? And then H2 can be, let's say, 64, H3 can be 56, H4 can be 48. These are 8-point grids because every single one of them is divisible by 8, right? And the reason why designers use the 8-point grid is that it makes it, number one, it's easy to memorize, right? And it helps everybody use a universal system. Do you get? So somebody can be designing in the US and then they're using the 8-point grid, and somebody else is designing in the UK and they're using the 8-point grid. And then if that US designer has to work on the UK file, I don't have to start worrying about, why is the H1 72 and H1 is 83? Why is it like that? Do you get? Right. So using the 8-point system, 40 is divisible, 48 is also divisible. Then we can also use 56, right? But basically, this is to your discretion, really. So excuse me, how much margin you want to give. It's to your discretion, because there are sites that give very little and there are sites that give a lot. It's really to your discretion how you want your design to look at the end, right? But if I'm trying to retain this feel that we have here, so I'm just going to try to fit it to 56, right? And I have it like this. So we can see that, which now means that every single thing that I'm designing, do you understand, has to fit here. Do you understand? For the sake of uniformity and a clean structure. Do you get? And then I can also decide that I want to increase the number of columns, right? So currently this is 5. I can decide to increase it to 15 is way too much. I can decide to increase it to 8, right? So once again, it depends on you, right? How much columns. Sometimes adding spaces between the columns help you with the space you would give between the contents on the page. So for instance, it's possible that my content might look like this before, but because of this grid, I was able to understand that, you know what, let me just bring it here instead. Maybe just increase this up until this point. Do you get? That's one thing. You can decide that, because of this excess space, let me reduce everything here to start, here, and everything here to start here, giving this as a space between. Whatever it is that you decide is on you, right? And then I can hide this by clicking to hide the icon, and boom, this looks way more structured than what we had before. That's how the grid system works. And yeah, that's how you structure the pages on your design elements. Okay, do we have any more questions before I just go to the chat and see if anybody dropped something that I might have missed?
So please, I have a question.
Go ahead.
It has to do with dribble. One of
It has
the
to do with
laws
what now?
of dribble, the sites that we see inspiration from.
Okay.
So, one of the laws says that a site that are offering similar products, that they should look alike. So me, for my assignments, I'm trying to look at e-commerce that has to do with building material. So I tried to go to Dribble to look at inspiration from there. Then I realized that it's not as if the site they are being segmented. So I'm not able to come up with any inspiration there. So I tried checking from one site to another that's dealing with that product. but I'm still not convinced that maybe is there a site that maybe categorize all the services or products together so that I can see the website together. I don't know if you understand what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
I sent, what's it called? I sent a list of inspiration sites a while back, close to the beginning of the training. It's possible that you missed that. But maybe go to the general design channel and check the pinned messages. I think it should still be there. I shared a couple of sites where you can get inspiration from.
So
just
this thing for color too, for site that you can how you can match color, how color goes together for a website. Is it possible to get such websites?
there should be. I can check, and you can also check from your end. Just, I mean, that's Google can help with that. But I can also check for you and see if I have access to anyone that I can easily share. But yeah, anything that you're looking for, any inspiration that you need, you just need to adjust how you're searching for them. You'd definitely find answers. Let me check to see. Could you clarify? Okay, Jovita, I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing it very well. Jovita says the assignment instruction talks about readability, clear communication of information, and even typography principles applications. Does this mean that we're labeling the boxes in the wireframe, or we design both the wireframe and the actual page? Oh, I've answered this already. I don't know if you joined late, but you are supposed to design the wireframe and then the actual page after you design the wireframe. Right? That's how it's supposed to be. You're supposed to design a wireframe and then and the part where we're talking about mobile friendly page, we are basically saying that so think about it this way, and this is for everybody too, please. Whenever you're designing anything, desktop, of course, most times you start with desktop, right? Whenever you're designing anything, keep it in mind that those pages, those designs, those products are also going to be accessed on mobile, right? So if you're designing a layout that is crazy, or that of course, now designers are very ambitious. You're designing a very ambitious layout. If that layout is not responsive, the whole essence of that build is going to be defeated. Do you understand? So we, to a point, have gotten to a level where when we see a design that is not feasible, we would know. Do you get? And that's why we're saying that those designs, like desktop designs, needs to be responsive. And that's even why we've asked you to do the tablet views of those landing pages that we asked you to do, the tablet view and the mobile view. Why? Because we want to really see how you want to cascade that design down to mobile. Right. So if you're doing something on desktop and then you're doing something completely different on mobile that is not going to work, we would know. Do you get? So keep it at the back of your mind that whenever you're designing anything, you need to think about how it's going to show on other screens, right? How it's going to how people that are being on mobile would also be able to access them. I hope that helps. I hope it does. Is that a good share knowledge? Okay. Okay. I hope nobody has been feeling intimidated so far. I already explained the difference between a landing page and a home page, right? Landing pages are single website pages that addresses something. The most times only have one action that they want the users to perform. So there are things that marketing people use. If I want you to maybe subscribe to a service, I want you to download an app, I want you to do one particular thing, I can just build and launch a landing page where every single button on that landing page is saying the same thing. Apply, or join us, or download, or buy now. That's what landing pages does, right? But for home pages are the first page you'd access when you're visiting a full-fledged website. Do you get? A multi-page website? So only multi-page websites have home pages, right? If you have a single page website, that single page is called a landing page website. Do you understand? So for instance, the Zuri team website, that first home page that you land on, that's the home page. And you notice that every button on that particular page leads to another page in the site. That's the difference between regular websites that have home pages and then landing pages. But for landing pages, the buttons there are definitely just telling you to perform a single action. They're not leading you to another site. You're performing every single action that you need on that particular page. So I hope that answers your question, IODG. I've explained what responsive landing page means. Basically, landing pages that looks good across board. Looks good on desktop, looks good on mobile, looks good on tablets, right? Do we need to label the selections? No, do we need to label the sections in our wireframes, or would the boxes suffice? Well, it's advisable that you start getting used to labeling stuff. We're not going to fail you or mark you lesser for not labeling right now. Do you understand? But it makes sense, or it's going to be advisable for you to start getting used to labeling your elements and your frames and everything, because in the long run, it's going to help you. Like I said, a lot of you are going to move on to working with companies that already have an existing design system, and then you're going to have to work with those systems. So if you are that person that comes in and starts breaking everything, giving it different names, or you're that person that comes in and all of a sudden their name starts turning into group 1 from 2050, then they would know that something is wrong somewhere. So right now, at this level of training, we are not going to give you a lesser score for not naming your files or your folders, right? But in the future, we would expect that it's something that is a part of you that you're going to get used to. Okay. I'm guessing there are no more questions because I've been scrolling up. I don't know if Mojo is still on this call, but if you have any question, so let me know. And so Adesanya Temitope, yes, for the landing page, you're showing us a desktop, tablets, and mobile, Once if you created a responsive design on desktop, then turning it to tablets and mobile screens shouldn't be a problem. I think I gave an example of that when we started. Okay, we've deleted those ones, right? So okay, let me just show you something really quickly, right? Let me show you something really quickly. This could also help everybody. So this is a desktop view, right? Let me put this together so we can so everything can just flow. All right, maybe reduce this by, let's say, 64. Yep. Okay, so this is a desktop view, right? This is how it looks on desktop. Imagine that I want to create a mobile view of this page, right, for that particular arrow section. Because it's the desktop already looks like this, then it's obvious, or it's very, very obvious that the mobile view is going to come off looking like, let me just do some, yeah. And let's bring in a mobile frame just so things look a little bit more organized, right? And by the way, I'm about to scale this down, but I know that I cannot just scale down using this because I'm working with a frame. So like I've said earlier, I'm using my scale function. I want to scale down, not reduce. So I'm pressing K, my keyboard. You can see that the scale option now shows, and then I want to scale down here. The reason for me scaling down is so that I can bring this into my file and then just reduce things a bit, right? So this is what I'm saying. The desktop view looks like this. So obviously on mobile, this is how that view is going to look like, because when things are being responsive, it goes from being horizontal to being vertical. Do you get? Direction goes from horizontal. Desktops have wider screens, so you can afford to play with horizontal concepts. But when it comes to mobile screens are not that wide, but they are long. So you would not have to switch from your, horizontal approach to a vertical approach. And of course, when you're on mobile, you now start, adjusting things to suit, start adjusting things to suit your mobile design, changing the font sizes to the font size you've created for mobile, changing the button sizes to button size created for mobile. But yes, this is how this kind of design would look on mobile, right? And just for the sake of minimal expo, right? If you have something like this, also there are different ways to to show them, right? Sometimes, let me just bring it in and show you an example. Sometimes some companies leave them like this, right? Sometimes some companies leave them like this where users can just scroll, while some of them don't do that. Some of them cascade distance, so it becomes like this, right? Yeah, I've seen things like this also before, but most times they leave it horizontal. So yeah, that's what we're saying. Once if your website, the design you've done for your website is straightforward enough, then it's easier for the mobile view to be designed. And just for the sake of some more clarity, I can share an example of that on the Zuri site. So let me stop sharing this, and then I think we can end there. Let me stop sharing this and share my browser again, and then just show you guys what I mean. Let's do, I think Zuri.team is still open. Yeah, that's great. All right. Let me know when you can see my screen. I will need a verbal confirmation. All right. So this is desktop. You can see what we're saying. Like it's horizontal. We have content here, image here. But the moment I cascade down, you can see exactly what I've been saying, right? The image, the text and everything stays on top, and then the image comes underneath. And the same goes for every single section. So you see how this one is stacked vertically now. If I increase the width, you will notice that on desktop. Do you understand? So that's the law of responsiveness, right? When you have a 2-column section, column 1, column 2, on mobile, it becomes column 1 comes on top and column 2 goes under. It's always the one on the right that comes under, always. That's the basic law of responsiveness. The same goes for this. So if I scale down again, let's do that one more time. Let's do, right. So see, and see. So yeah, it's the same for every single section of the site. If you go through, you notice it. You remember that these were like horizontally arranged, these cards, but now they are vertical. So that's the thing. Designing for mobile is not shouldn't be that hard once the desktop site is pretty straightforward. Anyways, I hope that clears things up a bit. I hope this session has helped. Oh, I'm saying one. Is this a question? Let me see. Since the landing page doesn't always stick to idle, you can scroll down. Okay, if I'm understanding what you're saying very clearly, Sasu, what you're saying is that landing, of course. So let me share. Let me go back to Figma and share that and just show you. Where is Figma? Okay, found it. Okay, so what we've been doing here is not what we've been doing since. It's not an entire landing page, right? These are just 2 sections, the hero section and then a section where we are listing partners. This is not the entire page. Of course, when you're designing, right, you have every right to do this, like increase it as long as possible so that new sections can do what can, come in, right? And of course, some sections with different blah, blah, blah. Do you understand? So it's not that this is the height that it has to be. No, it's just that this was the starting height. And then whenever you want to bring in more sections, you can now increase and keep increasing until you get to your footer, which is the end of the page. I hope that answers your question. You're not restricted to just this height. You can always increase you cannot increase the width because the width is supposed to be what Figma has set for you, 1440 by, however long it is. But the height is subject to increments. You can increase it as much as you want. I hope that clears things out. All right. So with I'm assuming that nobody has any more questions. We're all good. Okay. In the absence of any more question, I hereby declare this session over, right? And please, we are not here to scare you. We're not here to scare you. We're not here to make you feel like you cannot continue this journey. if you have questions, you're bothered, right? One of the reasons why we probably would not answer every single question that you ask is that there are some things that we want you to learn. I also want you to understand, right? You are in a training system that has other people who are learning the same thing you are, right? You should be able to communicate with them, right? No matter the question that you have, chances are there are one or two people in the group that also, that knows the answer to those questions, right? So we expect that before your question becomes public knowledge, you should have discussed it with a couple of other trainees, students, and then you guys should have tried to find a solution together. It's when those questions or those solutions are hard, we say that, these are things that you can't figure out on your own, that we are going to come in, right? And the reason why is that we want you to learn to collaborate, because you wouldn't always be the only designer in a team, right? I work with different companies right now, and I'm the only designer in just one of them, just one. The rest of the companies have multiple designers that I'm partnering with. If I didn't learn how to collaborate with, people during my starting days, I wouldn't have been able to go. All right. And yes, you cannot know everything. Even right now, I don't know everything. I still learn one or two things from the people that I work with. All right. So even if you have 50 million questions, right, there's no reason to feel sad or feel like you don't know this thing. No, everybody started from one point. So feel free to ask questions that you have. If there are things that we've answered before, we'll point you to that point where we've answered them, or we'll point you to the resource where we've answered those questions. But yes, collaborate with your peers. You guys should learn and grow together. This is not a competition. It's not. It's not a competition at all. Every single one here, we are rooting for every one of you. There's no first in the class. Nope. Right? Your certificate is going to say that you went through and you completed zero, not you went through and you carried first. So feel free to share knowledge with the rest of the team. Feel free to carry them along if you know things. And if you don't know, feel free to ask questions. And yeah, we look forward to seeing everyone grow and scale through together. So thank you very much, guys, for joining. I wouldn't take any much of your time. Cheers. Have fun.
Damilola, thank you. You made me feel like a designer already. Thank you.
Thank you
That's
so
what we're
much for this
striving to do.
session. I really gained a lot. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Cheers, guys. Bye.
Cheers to you too.